Welcome back to the Driven Leadership Podcast. Well, I can't do that because then it's going to compete with the actual. It's fine. People don't care.
The music. I thought you had music.
I mean, the music's going. You can hear it, right? You can't hear it.
No.
It's just it's post. It's a post thing. It's the magic of.
Sorry.
Welcome back, everybody. We got a cool topic today. One that's been top of mind with just some with companies that we've been dealing with recently, looking for and having pain points of new managers coming into positions, and whether that be a well-planned transition or hey, we need somebody to fill this spot. Jim Bob's been a great employee. I think he could be a good manager. And in either case, we've seen this pain point come up with new managers getting into the positions and just learning the do's and don'ts. And one of those big pieces that I've specifically seen kind of brought up in the past few weeks is that of micromanaging. And so what we're talking about is really that transition from being a decent, a high-performing employee, a doer of things, and that's your metric, to then managing other doers, and not taking that on yourself, which, people translate to working on the business, not in the business. There's all those sayings and phrases you can put on it, but that's what we're looking at today is new managers, how to train, coach, and help them avoid the pitfalls of becoming a micromanager in their new role. So, so with that kind of that foundation laid, what are your first thoughts when you hear of micromanaging or just new managers in general learning skills like this?
Yeah, no, I mean, I see it all the time. It's a new manager comes in, they usually fall to one side of this coin. It's either micromanagement, which is excessive control, kind of in the middle of everything. Everything's got to be perfect and right and all of that. Yeah. Or they have this complete laissez-faire kind of mindset, and they're like, they don't want to deal with confrontation. You just do whatever you want.
Yeah.
And they're kind of, and I don't even think great managers necessarily walk the middle of this. Sometimes you need to, but you need to it's a range that we need to know the situation and where to apply it. There are times that micromanagement are required, especially maybe it's an emergency. Maybe there's something really important and you got to involve multiple people, but you got to see it done. There's times where it could have value. Yeah. But usually when we're talking about a new manager, they're coming in and it's because of a lack of experience, a lack of understanding, and they go to over control, to over get in there, and they don't understand. It's a pretty complex mechanism to be able to get to where people are functioning without also being controlled into it, because you got to have good communication. You got to build trust. You got to work with all the things that we've talked about on all the other podcasts. But pull this mic up so you can probably hear me better. But the interesting thing is most new managers will lean towards more control. And I can generalize and say it's because they feel if they control it, they can get the outcome. Yeah, but
which makes sense because that's what they've come from. And especially in cases of getting thrown into leadership with minimal training or support, I mean, it makes you're going to lean back on what you know. And a lot of high performers just know to control. They know how to get results.
I also think a lot of people don't get into management because they think that's what management is. They think that management is about controlling those people that I work with. Great management's really not a whole lot about control. There's control in there, but it's much more about empowering people to take action, especially in the expert field that they're doing. But it's also a way of creating accountability and ownership and all these different things, because they can't create that with the other person because they may lack the skill or haven't had the time or whatever's going on. And so they're like, well, I don't know that they're owning this, and I don't know if they're going to follow through and do it the way I want it to. So let me just make sure. Let me just kind of be in the middle of it the whole time.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, for me, I've absolutely fallen into this trap. And the reason this came up is we've been doing one of our 360 diagnostics with a company, and it was brought up that new managers are put into positions, and without the skills and training that we've mentioned, whenever things get busy, and things start to fall between the cracks. I mean, really, you mentioned it. The heart of this conversation really is about accountability, just as is about micromanagement. But as things start to fall between the cracks, that manager who's supposed to hold people accountable and use that as the mechanism of getting things done, they then step back into that role of, well, I know how to do it, so I'm just going to do it to make it easier for everybody. And I've absolutely fallen into that in years past, being a new manager, going through that mindset, and then 3 months in, 6 months in, it's like I can't keep this up. Or you tell yourself, I'm not a good manager, and really you're just burning yourself out because you don't know how to do it. You don't understand that piece of it.
Yeah. Well, it's I just think it's common. I it's funny. We were coming into this, and I'm like, gosh, I don't even know if I'm the right one to talk to this. I see this all the time, but I'm probably more the laissez-faire. Is I'll like throw it out there and go get it. I don't want to be in the middle of it. You do it. I've never been great at being a doer. But Mary, on the other side, Mary's a terrible manager. And
well, and for anybody who's maybe this is their first time listening, yes, Mary is Eric's wife, and yes, he's said that before while she's on the podcast. So it's not an unknown.
But it's if she were here, I would say she would own it too.
Yeah.
What's cool is teaching
you a favor there.
Yeah, thanks, man. Keep me off the couch. She is. I remember this years and years ago, where Mary and I met at a leadership development company, and I happened to be her manager for a stint that was in there, right? And in there, we came up. It was a bunch of individual salespeople. She was on a sales floor, and she was awesome. She crushed it at sales. And we're like, man, we've got these few select, amazing salespeople. Let's give them some support so they can expand their books and kind of build a little team underneath them that is handling some of the lower level clients and different things. And they just got to kind of work with that team a little bit, but they can focus on the bigger clients. So it's a brilliant plan to take our top salespeople and expand it into more clients because they're at capacity. And man, you want to talk about a big mistake? That was so bad because you had these individual contributors that were really kind of lone horse, lone wolf, whatever you want to call it, type salespeople.
Yeah.
And now we put them in a management role. And I think it was about 75% of them were god awful at managing people.
Which is hilarious. You're working at a leadership company.
But here's the thing. Yeah, for sure. Leadership management may be a little bit different, but the salespeople weren't necessarily leadership experts. They were doing sales.
Yeah. That's fair. Yeah.
But on I still remember I was having a conversation with her, and I'm like, so just delegate that stuff off your plate. And she's like, well, how do I know it gets done? And I'm like, you just maybe you can do it through meetings, or you can just have it on the spreadsheet like the rest of everybody else. Like there's systems for how to do this, and it's pretty simple and easy. And she's like, nah, I got to do it. That's the way it is. And so, but she was always brought up in the mindset of, I got to do it and make sure it's right. And there's a lot of people like that. It's like they're the doers, they get in there, they need the control, they need all that stuff. I mean, she teaches management for those out there. She's actually quite good at it, teaching it.
Yeah.
But the doing of it, the behavior of it, she has this kind of, I got to get involved. We've got another company that we work with, and they've got a new manager, and we're dealing with some of this that's going on in there. And it's the girl really wants to be able to delegate and get things off her plate and not be micromanaging. Yeah. But she's so terrified that if it doesn't get done the right way, that it's going to reflect poorly on her because the pressure from above her is, and by the way, the pressure from above her is not like, you got to have this perfect, you got to do all that, but she just wants to perform in this new role so much that everything's perfect and everything's right. That she's driving herself crazy. She's working like 12, 13 hours. She's burning herself out getting in there, and she's in the middle of everything. And what she's teaching all her people is, hey, I don't have to really work that hard because you're going to do it for me.
Yeah. It creates this weird relationship where I am your manager, but I'm also your safety net. And there's some level of that that's okay. A manager, you should be able to go to them, rely on things if things aren't going well, but they can't be you can't be the Superman. Mid-level managers should not be filling the role as Superman or Superwoman, Supergirl. I don't know what the Nick character is, but to swoop in and help save the day and move and function like that. It's not going to work out well for anybody. So my question is, like, as we get into this, if we're speaking directly to, I think this is the lens that I look at it. If you're talking directly to new managers who may be listening, and they don't have somebody to help coach and develop this skill for them, what are skills or processes that you've seen that help build this muscle of being able to delegate and to hold people accountable with the specific intention of avoiding the micromanagement of it all?
Well, okay, so we'll talk about two things here. One is the emotional side of this, and one is the process side of it. Okay,
Yeah.
so I think we start with the process side because I think that's the easier one.
Okay.
So there's plenty of ways. There's plenty of ways to create simple processes to be able to do this. Typically, it's about how well do we state the expectations, how well do we plan the meetings and the check-ins. You can still be involved, but not overly involved. You're more checking in and supporting your team versus being involved in it. It's actually quite simple to not micromanage.
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't want to spend a crazy amount of time on process because there's a million things on the internet. But one that's easy is like the Eisenhower matrix, and it's just some cubes or what's urgent, what's important, and you're just kind of evaluating those. And you want to live in the things that you're doing as this box over here on the right that is important but not urgent.
Yeah.
And you want in the top box, it's important and it's urgent. That's an emergency. Yes, you're involved with that, but you want very few things that fall in there. And a lot of managers are managing from the emergency category
every day. Yeah.
Right. So when you're in this, that's why this conversation starts to get complex. If we're just being simple, I'm a new manager and I need to let go of control a little bit and kind of ease my way out. You can practice that and do that through just kind of paying attention to it and working on it. It's not easy, but you can start to do it. And there's many ways to do that. But the reality is you get into a culture. Let's say you're in a business and it's like everything's a fire. You know, everything's last minute. It's knee-jerk reactions and decisions. It's poor communication coming from above and probably poor communication that's going from below. And you're kind of in here and you get thrown in as a middle manager and thrown to the wolves. And I'd love to tell you that is a really rare situation, but I'm not exaggerating. I'd probably say that's 50, 60% of mid-level management. I mean, it just feels that way anyway. So that's where if we say the majority of people are kind of in that environment. So now you're like, holy shit, if that falls, I'm screwing that up and I'm doing that. Like all this stuff starts to spiral. They're staying up late at night. They're doing all that's going on. Yeah. So to get to where we're not micromanaging, we've got to get some level of stability going on in our life and in our work. So we got to move them from the emergency column over into the other column. To do that, we got to get ahead of them. So we got to be looking at things like, okay, this problem repeats every third week. I've got a plan for next time that somebody else is taking that off my plate because I know it's coming if that's possible. And we start planning into the emergency to start looking forward. So if we can look forward, we can start to delegate. And then we start to delegate, and then you're dealing with emergencies and they're delegating. You also need to plan a few check-ins that are going with it just so that you feel secure and confident that it's going well. Yeah. And when it's not going well, that's when you can step in a little bit more.
Yeah.
However, preferably your step in is about coaching, but you can't get to coaching if you're in an emergency state. Right. So I guess first thing is you got to get out of the I'm drowning, out of the emergency state. And some of you are going to go, well, I just can't do that. Okay. I hear you.
Well, and I've heard it and I've been there where it's like the biggest hurdle to do that is time. Where in order to do that, you have to sacrifice time. If you think that time is the one commodity you can't give up, it's like this vicious cycle where it's like, well, in order to do that, I need to delegate time to it, but I don't have time to it, so I'm not going to ever do it. I'm just going to stay stuck. And So there is a push that you have to make to get out of that cycle, and that push requires time. But 3 months from now, it's going to be worth it. Every bit of that stress and time that you put into it.
Completely. But everything we just talked about to me is more the process side.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now we go emotional side.
Yeah.
So let's say you're somebody who trust is hard. Mm-hmm. You don't really necessarily see in people that they either do what they say, they're not competent in what they do. Maybe their value system is different. They're going to prioritize it differently. They're going to look at it through a different lens, and you believe that's going to compromise whatever's going on. And so, because trust is connected to character and competence.
Yeah.
And so when we're in that space and I've got a team, I've built a team, or I'm new leader on top of a team I don't know them that well.
Yeah.
To get to where you cannot micromanage is actually the path is more through building trust with them.
Yeah.
So trust, do I believe they're the type of person that wants to do a good job, that thinks outside themselves, has a similar value system for whatever it is that we're connected to? And do I think they have the competence? Okay. So if the value system's there, we got something to work with. Generally speaking, the values are pretty aligned.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you got somebody in there that you completely distrust, that, steals from the company or whatever, they shouldn't be there. That's a different path. Yeah. All right. So if we can get the character side of this to work on trust, the competency side is where a lot of people get hung up. They go, well, they don't do it like me.
Yeah.
So what you're really dealing with is a training issue. Mm-hmm. Okay. And so what you're saying is you're not good enough at teaching people, that you get frustrated because there's some nuance or whatever is going on. And so you've got to work on how do you teach? How do you work with others? Mm-hmm. And also, where's your bar of expectation? Like, they aren't you. They need to have some autonomy in what they're doing. If it's slightly different, are you okay with that? And can you be okay with that? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. If we're doing neurosurgery, probably shouldn't have a whole lot of doing it differently. But when we're like doing customer service, mm-hmm. and we're looking for the right attitude in there, and you might have different words and say it better and all those type of things. However, there's a learning cycle to go on, and as long as they're not burning the client, I can usually work with that from that place. So, so to deal with the emotional side, you got to get to trust. To get to trust, you got to kind of evaluate where they are and where is your problem. And then once you understand that, then you start to work on the problem. And if the trust is, maybe you don't know them that well, a lot of times that's going to require you to be more vulnerable with them, but you're a new manager and you don't know where that line is.
Yeah.
So all these problems that go with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I even think that's applicable to people who may go through internal promotions, and you are a part of a team. Now you're leading the team. And depending on how that transition goes and how messy it is, there could be trust issues just getting to that position for people that and that were once your peers. But I think the same principles apply, where as long as you make the effort and time and energy to correct that and to build that back up, then that's where you'll be able to have success in it.
Yeah, it's I think the first step to not micromanaging, okay, the first step is to be aware that you are.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you think micromanagers are aware that they are? Or
I don't think most of them are. Most of them think they are doing what they're supposed to be doing. Mm. And so, and it's also a little bit of the perception of the other person, because some people are sitting there and they're like, no, I like you in the middle of this. Get in here. And they want it.
Yeah.
But the people that are like, man, they're a micromanager, they're in the middle of it, they a lot of times don't say that back to their boss. Instead, they kind of keep it to themselves and they go gossip to everybody else. They're like, are they in your stuff at the level they're in my stuff?
Yeah.
It's like, how do you work with this and what do you do? And then it's just a lot of frustration. Then you get disengagement. They don't know what's going on. So it's,
then they're micromanaging even more.
Yeah. And then they micromanage more because I'm not getting the results. Get in there more and more. And then it just repels. Yeah. I think talk about the ideal situation for a new manager to come in has always been, to me, is that they come in and they do a lot of watching and a lot of listening for several weeks. They ask a lot of questions and do very little telling.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like sunshine, rainbows, and unicorns for most people. They walk in and they're like, wait, it's a natural disaster in here. I've got to take control. I've got to do this stuff.
Yeah.
And maybe you do. Maybe you do. In some cases, you do need to do that. But in a lot of cases, it's been a natural disaster for the last 6 months. What's another couple of weeks? And I go to my boss and I go, look, this is how I'm starting. I'm going to start and I'm going to ask questions. I'm going to listen. I'm going to get curious. I need to understand why it's where it is before I go in and just start dictating to everybody and getting in the middle of it and pushing everybody around.
Yeah.
And if they're like, yeah, I hear you, but you got to fix this in the next 2 days. Well, then you got to fix that in the next 2 days. But outside of that, we're kind of setting the groundwork. I think that alone for a new manager is really hard, coming in and going, hey, I know this is the right way to do this. This is the way I want to start this.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of setting the expectations up so that you can gain the expectation down to do what you need to do.
Yeah.
But,
yeah. I'll say for me, and I've talked about my past at Chick-fil-A before. And that's where I mostly dealt with this issue in some other places as well. But even in those places in like more, corporate world, the advice that was given to me and what I ended up doing that worked phenomenally was just bringing somebody alongside what I was doing. So you're in that way, you're kind of embracing like, okay, I believe that I'm doing this the best possible way. For the sake of my ego, I am the only one who knows how to do this 100% correctly. Let's say you're there. Well, then in order to fix that, I can't just step away. That's not realistic. So in order for me to be able to step away, I need to bring somebody else next to me and just let them watch me do it. And then the next day, I'm asking them the questions about what they see, kind of like what you're saying. And then the next day, I'm like, hey, how about you give it a go now? And then they're doing it. And then I'm coaching them on how to do it and adjusting how they're going through it. And it's that side-by-side approach. And then, theoretically in that made up scenario of like there being a singular task that you're doing, within a week, that person could be functioning at 80% of your 100%, which is a pretty good place to be. And then over the subsequent weeks, you don't just drop them and be like, all right, cool, let me know how it goes at the end of the year. You stay coaching and then you progress and then you show them something else. And it's that progression that will move you out of that doing mode into coaching mode, which is kind of in my mind, in that time, is like it was the end goal. Like I need to be more of a coach in the business, not a doer. And that way always worked out. Even if it worked out in the way of, oh, this person that I'm coaching, they don't have the competence I thought they did. Let me move them to another task that they can do, or whatever else ended up happening. So,
and the way you discuss that, I guess I picture, so you're there in Chick-fil-A and you're working with that, but it's a repeatable pattern. It's like make this sandwich or ring this person out this way, or it's like this thing that's pretty much the same each time, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so get it. That I feel like that's exactly it. That works great. And you kind of duplicate yourself all over the place. And then I go back to the customer service. I feel like if you're working with customer service, because it's coming at you from 100 different ways and you've got to think and produce a different kind of response each time, that's where I see more of the micromanagement, because people just kind of hop in as like, the way you think doesn't work.
Yeah.
And so then they're like, well, I can't teach them how to think. I don't know how to do that. But I think it's similar to what you just said.
I think
it's much more coaching.
Yeah.
It's kind of like they do. Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just saying it's a lot more complicated, but it is, you can still achieve the same result. And even, oh man, I don't know, maybe find out that you weren't doing it 100%. And they end up doing it better than you. Yeah.
I feel like that happens a lot, actually.
A couple times.
Yeah. Because we've been doing it and we know this way works, and then they go and do it in a different way and it works better.
And they ask a question. We're like, well, why haven't you done that? Like,
and you're like,
shut up. You're not right.
Because you're wrong. Let me find somebody. Don't talk to me. That's exactly it.
I say, first of all, right. I don't know who you think you are.
I don't know who you think you are.
I am your
I've
supervisor.
Been here for 5 months. You got here to what, last week? It's real.
That's so funny. Yeah, I think we've covered a good bit of ground, because really at the end of the day, I think you kind of said at the top, like, unfortunately, for people who've been stuck as micromanagers, it's not that hard to get out of it. It on paper. Like, the plan is not that hard. It's a 1, 2, 3, boom, boom, boom. These are the things you need to do to move out of it. The executing on that plan is where people get stuck, and then you rubber band back to old habits. But I think
we have this great class, self-sabotage, connects right into this. I'm just saying.
That is true. That is very true. But the beauty of it too, and I'm honestly thinking about the other classes of, like, the fundamentals and all the other foundational pieces that we teach with managers. It's hard to progress and grow as a leader in managing other people and leading other people when you're stuck in the weeds.
Yeah,
it's very, very difficult to grow your emotional intelligence and your trust within the team if your door's closed every day and your inbox is at 100 every day and you're exhausted and just burning yourself out. So what really shifted me back in the day with things like this is, like, as a leader, I owe it to my team to set down this micromanagement piece. Like, I need to grow them. They help grow me. It's this, like, symbiotic relationship. And it's super rewarding. It's very difficult, but it is rewarding.
I do think, especially those that are in larger companies, having a role model on this, pick somebody out that's really good, and you kind of you want to copy, you want to see what they're doing, and start, and also go ask them questions. Go, how'd you get here? How'd you land doing it this way versus the way I'm doing it?
Yeah.
And
hey, you seem relaxed when you walk in every day.
Yeah.
Tell me more about that.
You're okay when they screwed that up. Why are you okay with that? And maybe that's a good or bad thing. I don't know. But anyway, yeah. No, role models really help with things like this. I always picture when people talk about micromanagement, and I know we're wrapping it up here, but I have this picture. So I was in first grade. Okay. First grade.
Whoa. Okay.
Okay. First grade. And the teacher gave people the ability to be the teacher for like 10 minutes or so. I don't know how long it was.
Okay. Yeah.
So, and I still remember, because I felt so powerful being the teacher, and everybody was writing something. Is all I remember. Everybody's writing something. But for me being the teacher, I went and I grabbed a ruler and I walked up and down the aisles and smacked my hand like I was like the German army Nazis or whatever. Do your work. It was kind of what I did. And I've always pictured that. And I'm like, okay, that's excessive control, all the things, like, I'm in your stuff. But I think it comes from the same place. It's like this, there's also an authority. There's a significance to it. There's this importance to it of, like, and granted, hopefully you're not walking up and down the cubicle slapping a ruler in your hand. But that's what people are feeling when we're jumping into spaces where they've got it and they've got the responsibility and they're going to make it happen. And most people want that responsibility so they can prove themselves. And when we get into micromanage it, it becomes about us.
Yeah.
And so anyway, don't be the dude walking up and down the aisle with the ruler. Don't do that. It's bad.
Yeah, I think that's pretty sound advice.
Got it.
Take away anything from this episode is don't be a Catholic school teacher with your walking up and down.
Well, you made it religious. I went Nazi, so hey, we're nailing it.
Did you hit any other kids?
I didn't. Apparently, I don't remember hitting anybody. I just remember hitting myself with the ruler. and walking up and down. And I felt really powerful. That's what I remember. So, I'm in charge.
Oh my gosh, that explains a lot.
By the way, my first grade teacher never walked up and down the aisle with a ruler. So that's was my perception.
It was one that you completely took control of. Yeah. And you were like, this is what she should be doing.
Yes. We all knew I was trouble from that moment on. But.
And that's why everybody at Driven calls you Eric the Enforcer.
That is not true. That is not true.
Well, thanks for listening, everybody. If you want to learn more about how to take utter control of your company, reach out to Eric at drivenleadership.com.
Utter control? Is that like control of your udders? Or is that
complete and total dominance? We have a class for that.
Yeah.
How funny
dominance.
Would that be?
They'll walk in, I give them a ruler.
No, if you want to do the opposite, and if you want to build empowered teams that are inspired by your true God-given authority in leadership, I'm just ruining it. We do have genuine classes that help you out, whether it's self-sabotage or just the fundamentals of leadership. We got your back. Let us know. Otherwise, we appreciate you guys listening. Share this with that new manager, whether they're above you or below you on the corporate ladder. Share this episode with them.
Send this podcast to your who you report to. Hey, you need to watch this. That'll go over well. Man. That's the way to do it.
Yeah, perfect. We've solved it for you. Just send them this episode. Man. Well, thanks, Eric, for chatting through this. We'll see you guys next week.
Bye, everybody.